Kurt Martens is a professor of Canon Law at the Catholic University of America. He joins us now from Washington. Professor, I went to Catholic school all of my life except college. And listen, defrocking is something they taught us about in school, but I mean, very few people get defrocked, especially cardinals. Am I wrong to see this as a huge story?
No, it's not wrong. It's actually a very huge story because defrocking is not actually the correct term. We call it dismissal from the clerical state. So someone who's been a priest is now dismissed from the clerical state, is no longer supposed to be a priest, can no longer present himself as a priest. So it's basically the death penalty for clerics, if you want, because it's a perpetual penalty. You cannot come back. You have to change your life now.
Okay, so if it's not defrocking, what exactly is defrocking as defined?
It's basically dismissal from the clerical state, because defrocking is the colloquial term that we use for saying the same thing. Right?
Okay, the same thing. All right. So we know we know that the former Cardinal McCarrick is the highest-ranking church member to get defrocked in colloquial terms. How often does this happen in church history?
It doesn't happen too often. Actually, if you look at the crisis that we have been experiencing here in the States since 2002, we have seen priests defrocked, although exact numbers are not available. When it comes to bishops or church leaders, that happens very rarely. We've seen McCarrick now. We've seen a bishop in Canada, in Antigonish, Bishop Leahy, who was defrocked, and we've seen 2 retired Chilean bishops being defrocked in the past 2 decades. So it's not much. So it's very significant.
You know, having been an altar boy and a Eucharistic minister and gone to Catholic school, Professor, I've seen the power that bishops have, right? It's almost supreme power, at least when it comes to the church. But within the last decade or so, maybe last 5 years, it seems as though bishops are sort of losing, I don't know, a little bit of their ask no questions, they say what they want, and they don't respond to whatever they want to talk to. They're being compelled now to do more, say more, act faster. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, at least because it is a credibility crisis. Their credibility is at stake. However, they still have, in the church's system, the highest power that is possible, a bishop for his diocese and a pope for the whole church. So the decision today, when you look at the statement of the Holy See, it includes abuse of power as an aggravating circumstance. That is pretty significant. It means that abuse of power is something that will be looked at in the context of these crimes.
What is the reaction within the church? So externally, from non-faithful, they see this as a huge black mark, on another black mark on the church's reputation. For Catholics, it's somewhat embarrassing. What is the view, as you've heard it, inside the church?
Inside the church, it's hard to say there is this or that view. There are mixed views. It's for sure that there are still supporters. There are people who said that this should have happened years ago. So there is a mixed approach. It's not a happy day for Catholics today because this should not have happened in the first place. For victims, it's a huge step forward because their story is believed and there is given some consequences to it.
What does this do to Pope Francis's reputation? And in that, I mean his reputation as perceived by some as being more involved, stronger. Not everybody feels that way, but some do. What does this do to his reputation?
Well, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, to use a colloquial expression again. We will have to see how this transpires to the future and what further cases will lead to. There is still the pending appeal of Archbishop Apuron, the Archbishop of Guam, a U.S. territory, who was accused of sexual abuse of minors, predating his episcopal ordination. However, that man was not dismissed from the clerical state. He appealed the decision that found him guilty, and it sits now with the Pope. So it depends on how the Pope deals with this. Do we see now a kind of zero tolerance towards behavior by bishops?
Next week, the Pope is going to meet with bishops from around the world. Who exactly has been summoned to Rome for this meeting?
Well, the people that have been summoned to Rome for this meeting are primarily presidents of episcopal conferences, so the leaders of the church in a given nation, and also Eastern hierarchs from the Eastern Catholic churches. What to expect from this meeting, that's a whole other question. They will sit together for 3 days. You have people coming from different backgrounds, different cultures. It's going to be surprising if some new measures are coming from this meeting that only is going to last for roughly 3 days.
Professor, dioceses around the country have been releasing lists of priests who have faced credible accusations of sex abuse in the past. Do you expect at some point every diocese in the United States to release that list?
Expecting to that question, yes, we could expect that list. How that list looks like, that's a whole other discussion, because what is credible accused? Do you include deceased priests?
That's fair.
That's a huge question among canon lawyers and by extension among Catholics these days. Not everybody feels comfortable to also put deceased priests on there because they lack the right of defense. They can't defend themselves anymore.
To defend themselves, right. But has the Pope from Rome said, I order you bishops to do it, or are bishops individually, through their own discernment, deciding, I'm going to do this?
At this point, bishops individually are discerning that. They decide that they will do this. Whether the Pope will order that, that's a whole other matter, because can you order something like that worldwide? Because if the Pope orders that, it's going to be worldwide. Can you order that worldwide? That's another question, because you may run into prohibitions according to civil law that may not let you publish these list of names.
Interesting. Professor Kurt Martens, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
You're most welcome.